Awesome. Good morning. How are we today? Is there anyone here or is the building empty? How are we going today? There we go. That's a bit more up and about. How good. Thank you, team, for leading us. You've been wonderful. If we haven't met before, my name's Ryan, and I'm part of the team here. Spent a long time every Sunday morning in this campus, but then they shipped me north, and so mostly spend my afternoons in Yanchep, which has been really good. But it is always great to be in church on a Sunday morning and looking forward to opening the Word with us together. But I must say, over the last week, I don't know if there's anyone else out there that's a bit like me that's felt a little bit lost and a bit unsure what to do with themselves. The Olympics finished, so yeah, you thought I was going somewhere else, didn't you? But, every night I was able to come home and just watch, I come home and my 8-year-old boy's already got it started, so he's already given me the updates as I walk through the front door. Little did he know that mostly they were replays. Most of the real Olympics took place once he was in bed, but there was just this constant over the last couple of weeks of just Olympics. But, I am a bit of a sports fan and people would know that, but I do have a small bone to pick with the Olympics. Can we go there? Is that all right, just for a moment? There are way too many sports in the Olympics. Anyone with me on this? There's just too many. Sean, you're with me. There's some sports I think, that just probably shouldn't be in the Olympics. And I'm not going to debate that because I can see some people looking at me like I'm going to get lynched, but I feel like the Olympics has its own place in sport, but I feel like everyone's just trying to get in on that. Everyone wants a gold medal, so we'll just keep giving sport. I reckon I'm going to go for 2020. I'm going to make preaching an Olympic sport just to try and get myself a gold medal. It's got that vibe about it, but. I really have enjoyed over the last few weeks just watching different sports. And, so as I was preparing, I think I had the Olympics in mind as I was preparing my message today. And so our verses are going to come out of Hebrews chapter 12. And we'll read this together and then we'll get into it. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." I love these verses, and I love what the author and the writer of these scriptures is saying in his writings to encourage the church. And the incredible thing about scripture that is so simple at times, but is just a constant reminder for me, is this was written so long ago in a completely different context to where we live today. But the very truth of these words that we have read resound right now in 2024. And different culture, different context, different walks of life, but the same truth that was written all the way back then is there for us to grab a hold of today. And so we're just going to have a look at these few verses. And I hope after we read these and kind of unpack these a little bit, my heart would be that you leave encouraged in your walk of faith, your unique walk of faith that God has for you. And as you approach your week and as you approach your time where God places your feet, that you would know that there's a unique calling on your life to run a race that's unique to you, that he cares about. And so that's what I hope we can take out of this today. And the first kind of thing I wanted to kind of draw out for us is this idea of witnesses. When I was thinking about that again, to kind of go back to that idea of when you're a witness to something, you're normally giving your account, aren't you? You're normally, or you're a watcher, or you're giving your view. That's not kind of, I get that idea of, running a race and all these people are watching you. It can feel daunting, or you've got to perform, or you've got to, put on a show because you've got this great cloud of witnesses, as it says here. But that's not what the scripture is getting at here. It's actually coming out of Hebrews 11, which is more like the hall of fame of faith, if you will. The writer is going through and he's talking about Moses, and he's talking about all these, Abraham, all these great pioneers of faith that went and did great things with their life. Not perfect people, but people that went and just obeyed the call of God and did incredible things. And they've made the hall of fame of faith in the Bible, if you will. And coming out of that, he's saying, therefore, with such a great cloud of witnesses, and what these witnesses actually are, should be encouraging examples of what it looks like to live a life of faith. When I read Hebrews 11, I look back and go, man, what could God do through people? What could he do through me? What could he do through you? Because I've seen in the scriptures that he's done it before. And it doesn't take a perfect person. It doesn't take the best leader. It doesn't take the most trained person. It actually just takes someone who's willing to go, God, what do you want to do in me? And it should be this encourager to us that there are these witnesses not watching down on us to see how we go, that are actually there that have paved the way and shown that God can do the impossible, that God can do incredible things through individuals who are just willing to put their hand up and say, yeah, I'll run my race. Yeah, I'll do it. And I don't think these stories in the Bible are meant to just live there. Like God didn't stop with Moses, didn't stop with Abraham, didn't stop with Noah. It's meant to continue on today. And he gives us this example of going, look at what God can do uniquely through his people. We have to just be willing to say, yeah, I'll run my race. Yeah, I'll say yes and chase after the things that God has. And that I'd be willing to be a student. I'd be willing to learn. I'd be willing to be teachable. I'd be willing to invest in my life, invest in my race, and allow God to work in and through me. So that's where we're coming from today. Does that sound okay? The first thing that, as he's talking about this race, he talks about these words, like running your race with perseverance and endurance. Again, to go back to running, I don't associate the 100-meter sprint with perseverance or endurance. Now, it would take perseverance and endurance to get there. Now, I'm not knocking the 100-meter athletes, but perseverance and endurance speaks to me about a long race. Maybe it's a long swim. Did anyone see those swimmers that were like swimming out in the open, dirty water? And like I went to work and then came home and they were still swimming. I've done an 8-hour day and you're still going against the current. That's endurance and it's perseverance. But I feel like I could not zone in on those things long enough. We as a people are trying, in this day and age, I feel like we try and turn life into a sprint. We want to shorten everything. We want to condense everything. Take Brad Lewin's beloved cricket for an example. It used to be a 5-day spectacle. It used to be the highest pinnacle of cricket you could get. 5 days, one match. Now we've reduced it to 20 overs because 5 days is boring. And then the other day they're talking about how 20 overs is too long. We probably need to go to 10 overs. Now, if my son wants to play cricket, I'm all about 10 over cricket. Let's go. None of this 5-day rubbish. But the reality is we turn everything into a sprint. We want to get to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Hard times come, we want to sprint out of it. Good times come and we want to sprint to the next thing. I was listening to a podcast the other day and the guy was quoting a philosopher whose name I didn't catch because I was driving and I don't pay great attention. But the principle of the story was this. He was saying that we can live our lives not realizing the moment we're in because we're always looking for the next one. And so it's when I get that job, that's when the good times will come. And we get that job and we're like, when I get the promotion, that's when the good times will come. When I get married, that's when the good times will start. That's when life will really begin. And he said, one day you turn around and you're 45 years old and you got 2 or 3 kids and you realize that the good times have been there all along, you just haven't appreciated them. And we live this life going, I just got to get to the next thing. I just got to get to the next thing. I just got to get to the next thing. And what we fail to realize is that the very moment we're in, we should be present. He goes on to talk about how life is actually more like a song. It needs to be played. And each part of the song has its own moment and it comes together and it paints this beautiful picture. And life should be more like a song that we listen to and let play out and enjoy the very moment of that we're in, rather than trying to sprint to the next thing. And I think what the writer is encouraging us here and kind of what I get is we've got to know the pace that God wants us to run at. Yeah, in any time of life, there's times to go fast and there's times to go slow. There's times where life will go a bit quicker and it'll slow down. But if we are always just looking at what the next thing to get to is, we are completely missing what God has for us today. And unfortunately, sometimes those things are painful. Sometimes we can be in seasons that are difficult and painful and hard. And of course we want to get out of that, but in those moments, Jesus wants to do something in our lives. In those moments where we can stop and we can celebrate and we can enjoy the good things of life. We don't want to wish that away and just try and get the next good thing, but actually appreciate what is happening in the moment. We need to know the pace that God wants us to run at. Not only that, the next thing is it talks about getting rid of things that would burden us and sin that would entangle. We want to run our race at the right pace, but we also want to run light. I spent a bit of time as a high school chaplain, which I loved. Just hanging out with teenagers, and one of the great privileges I used to be able to have was to go away camping with kind of year 11 students. So what would they have been back then? 16. But they were hiking camps, right? And so you got these 16-year-old kids that haven't walked further than the corner block before, and you're getting them to walk 40, 50 Ks in 3 days. And I remember my first camp kind of going, the teacher's going, you need to get them to empty their bags. I'm like, man, that seems a bit full on. Why are we bag searching? And he's like, you got to look for anything that they shouldn't take. And so I'm thinking, am I looking for bad things? So I tip the first girl's bag out, and I'm like, hair straighteners. Let me tell you, Chantel, you don't need hair straighteners. And she's like, well, what am I going to do with my hair? And I'm like, it's just going to be a little wavy, So I need to take my straighteners. I'm like, I need to break something to you. There's no electricity at this campsite. You can't even plug these suckers in, leave behind the hair straighteners. And so under protest, she leaves behind her thing. I'm like, next kid, tip his bag out. Hey, man, I don't think you need that slab of Coke. And he's like, what do you mean? We're going for 3 days. And I'm like, well, a slab of Coke's 10 Cokes a day. That's too much for your health. But also, you have to carry these. They are going to be heavy. So under protest, he would leave behind the 10 cans. But then you'd always have that kid that would just argue. They want the hair straighteners, they want the cans of Coke, and you're like, okay, you take the bag. But you're going to be the person we're going to use to teach everybody else a lesson. And you are halfway through the first day of hiking, and you see the kid there. I'm like, you got 3 more days of this. Hope your hair straighteners help you out, And you just look and they go, they've just packed way too heavy for the trip. Not all of those things are bad. I'm not against Coke. I love a good Coke Zero, actually, in the afternoon sometimes. But the reality is you can't pack for the trip what you don't need, or what is going to slow you down, or what is going to hinder you. And sometimes it's often, I don't know about you, but I'm often aware of the shortfalls sometimes in my life. I know where I'm going, wrong, maybe where there's sin in my life that I need to address. And it can be easy to kind of just look at this and focus it on sin. And it is. We need to be, repenting of the things that we do wrong that entangle us from walking in the things that God has. But sometimes I think in life, like that hiking bag, we pick up things along the way that we just don't need. And they become burdensome, and they become unhelpful, and they not only do they, weigh us down, they stop us walking at the pace that God has for us. And I think sometimes we've got to stop and we've got to look at what we're carrying around. And in a week or so's time, we've got a soul care conference happening here. And that's actually a great way to have a look at what you're carrying around. I'd encourage you to, if you can be there, be there. Because we all need to take time to go, what am I carrying around? The other day I had my work, I have a work bag. I call it my work office because I don't really, I just move around from cafe table to cafe table. And so everything kind of has to go into a bag. And the other day I was like, oh man, this is just feeling a bit heavy. I think it's time to have it. And I found so much stuff in there. I found receipts that I claimed I'd lost. I found money. I found, a lot of junk as well. And I was like, why am I carrying all this around? And so I just threw lots of it out. Not the money, and not the receipts. I gave them to accounts, so they were very pleased. But the reality is, it's that picture that we just walk around and we collect stuff. And it might have been useful for a season, and it might have been good at a time, or maybe, it's just rubbish that we didn't put in the bin. And we just walk around with it, and it gets heavier and heavier, and it slows us down, and it entangles us, and it stops us from walking in the purposes that God has for our lives. We need to stop sometimes and just open up that bag. See what's in there and lighten the load so that we can walk at the pace that he has for us. We've got to know our pace. We've got to run light. And the other one is this. It says that we need to fix our eyes on Jesus. I love that picture of fixing your eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of faith, the perfect example of what it looked like to live life on earth, to walk at the right pace, to do the things that the Father had called him to do. There's this great picture here. It says, Jesus endured because he looked beyond the shame and suffering of the cross to the joy set before him. We are to have the same perspective and to be encouraged by his endurance of opposition from sinful men, not to grow weary and not to lose heart. In a little while, we're going to take communion together, which is a literal picture of what that means. That Jesus came to earth and he went to the cross and he endured the suffering of the cross for the joy set before him. And the joy set before him is that we can live our life in relationship with him, overcoming these things that we pick up and collect and the sin that entangles us, and we can fix our eyes on him as the perfect example of how to do it, as the one who gives us hope to endure, the one that shows us what it means to persevere through. You're so often in the life of Jesus, you look at how often did he just slow up his pace and stop for a person? Or shift direction and go somewhere else because the Father called him to go, and stop because he told him to stay. But then how often would he go and be alone with the Father and pray and spend time hearing the voice of God to know what's next? For us today, it's a pretty simple picture that we just fix our eyes on Jesus. When we don't know where to look, when it feels hard to endure, when we want to run out of what we are into the next thing, we stop and we fix our eyes on Jesus. And we remember that all that we need to endure, he already endured. All those things in our bag that might seem hard to get rid of, he already conquered those things. We just have to take them out and give them to him and continue to walk with him. I want to finish with one last scripture that I think Jesus spoke, and I think is an amazing picture of what it looks like to walk at the pace that he has. And a lot of you would have heard this before, but it's Matthew 11:28-30, and it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I love that picture of being yoked to Jesus. And I think about yoke, I often just think about egg yolks and get distracted, but that's not what yoke is. It's not a light egg, heavy egg, light egg. You know, it's not egg, it's not yolk. It's actually this, see how my brain works? It takes a bit it's a bit messed up in there. There's a bit too much going on in here. But the reality, the idea of being yoked was that picture of being like cattle yoked together. And often when you're training young cattle, you would yoke it to older cattle. And as it was playing on the field, it would walk attached to the other animal, so that it would learn how to walk at the pace that it needed to. It would learn the rhythms of routine and where to go. And I love this picture because sometimes we can go, hey, fix your eyes on Jesus. Just look, yeah, he's up there in the clouds somewhere. Jesus is just distant. He's where I come to maybe when I make a mistake, or he's just this perfect example that I could never reach. That's not who Jesus is. This scripture, he says, hey, come to me. Hey, especially if you're feeling weary and burdened on your run. If life feels difficult. Don't be in a hurry, but actually just walk with me. Because my yoke is easy and the burden that I carry is light, and I'm going to teach you how to live in that rhythm. That you would walk with me. Another translation puts it this way, it says, walk with me and work with me. Work with me. Do work with me. Run the race with me. Bring me into your life. Invite me in the door. Yes, fix our eyes, but yes, walk with Jesus. You don't want to know how you get your pace right? Walk with Jesus. Spend time with him. Pray for his will to be done in your life. Don't hurry too much. Hand over those things that are weighing you down, that seem heavy and burdensome and hard, and allow him to work on those things with you. And then we find how to walk the rhythms and the pace that he has for us. We don't want to live out our days on this earth while our life in the span of time is quick. We don't want to race through it like it's quick. We want to live it for all that it's worth. And when I look at my life and I get home each day, I want to be able to get home at the end of the day and go, did I do the things that Jesus wanted me to do today? Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know because I didn't really check with him. You know, the reality is sometimes we can just run ahead at our own pace. But he says, walk with me and you'll find the answers to life. And so I just wonder today as a church, as we're here gathered and we're pointing our attention and giving our focus and fixing our eyes on Jesus, if we were to take stock at what our week looks like when we're scattered, what does our pace look like? Are we moving in rhythm with Jesus at the pace that he would call you to live at? Or is our focus fixed on just getting to the next thing, just making it to the next post? You know, there's some parents out there who are like, I just need to make it to 6 o'clock so I can put my kids to bed, and that's all you're focused on. And there's days like that. Or maybe you're going to work in a job that you just don't really like, and so you're just waiting for it to get to the end of the day so it's over and you can get to the next thing. I'd encourage you to stop and pause and ask Jesus, what are you saying and doing in my life in this season? Maybe you're in a place where life is just going excellent. You got nothing to complain about, and that's there's no battle for you, and those seasons are great. But have you stopped and given thanks to Jesus and appreciated what he's doing in your life in this moment, or are you already looking off to the next thing? We don't want to live our lives just missing what Jesus has for us right here, right now, where our feet are planted. And wherever you go tomorrow and throughout your week, that's where he has placed you in these moments. And so I'd encourage you to stop and slow down and find the rhythm and the pace that he has for you. Maybe some of you are going a little too slow. You need to speed that up a little bit. I don't know. Sometimes that's me. But allow him to lead and guide and direct your steps, because the burdens you'll pick up along the way will be much lighter when you walk with him. And maybe today you're here and you're like, yeah, I haven't had a look in my backpack for a little while. There could be all sorts of things in there that I've collected and picked up along the way. I wonder if as we come to the table to take communion, it's a time to stop and maybe confess some things to Jesus. Some things that are tripping you up maybe. Maybe some things that you've just collected along the way in your bag that are just heavy, and it's just time to leave them to one side. As you come and to the table and realize that there was that perseverance and endurance to push through the cross that actually paid the price for those things that we do wrong and those things that are in our bag that are heavy and weigh us down. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to lighten what's going on in your life by handing some things over to Jesus. Like I said, not all those things are bad, but let me tell you, they have more weight in your life than Jesus, there's something out of calibration there. The good things in our lives, if we give more weight to them than Christ, then there's something that's out of balance. We need to shift the weight back towards Jesus being number one. Maybe you want someone to pray for you. There'll be some prayer teams off to the sides, and you can come and go, hey, I need someone to pray with me through these things. People would love to pray with you. But here's the reality. The only person that knows your story is you and Jesus. And so in this moment, as we worship and as we sing, I want to encourage you to fix your eyes on him and allow him to speak to you right now. Don't come to him with the answer. Go to him for the answer. Allow him to speak into your life in this point in time. Do you need to shift some things? Do you need to speed up? Do you need to slow down? Do you need to just walk more in step with him? Do you need to empty some things out of your life? Allow him to pinpoint and speak to what those things are, so that you might leave here more tuned in to who he is and what he wants to do in your life this afternoon, what he wants to do in your life tomorrow, what he wants to do this week. That we could walk through this life putting our feet right where he has us, ready and willing to allow him to work in us and through us. To not just make our lives better, but to make the lives of the people we come into contact with better as well. Because ultimately that's what he wants us to do. He wants us to impact this world by walking with him and allowing him to work in us and through us to point people towards him. Could we stand together? I'd love to pray for us. We're going to take communion. We're going to sing a song and we're going to worship together. But I just encourage you, as you go to that table, allow him to speak to you. Allow him to pinpoint those things in your life that might need some work there. And if you want someone to pray for you, please go and see someone. Allow them to pray with you. We would love to do that as well. Lord, I thank you. You are not just some distant picture of perfection that we can never achieve, but Lord, you want to work with us. You want to walk with us. You want to guide and direct our steps. And Lord, ultimately, you want to lighten the burden of our lives so that we can walk more freely to do the things that you would call us to do. So Lord, in my life, may I seek you for the direction and calling you have for me each day. May I lighten the burden, the loads of my life and the sin that would entangle me, and allow you to deal with those things. And Lord, may we all do that together, to walk in step with you and run that race that you have called us to run, that we might run it well because of what you do in us and through us. It's in your name we pray. Amen.